Turns green, it's hot.
It's hot. Hello, everybody. We'd like to welcome you to our photojournalism night. Those of you who are in the club room can see that I'm not Richard Ader. Those of you at home can probably tell by my voice. I'm Chris Bosworth. I'm one of our vice presidents. I just want you to understand how important a vice president is with an illustration. So a guy goes home, tells his wife, honey, I got promoted to vice president. And she throws up her arms and goes, big deal. I'll bet you the grocery store has a vice president of beans. And she leaves, and he's kind of distraught, and he calls up the grocery store and says, can I have the vice president in charge of beans? And he said, fresh or frozen? Okay, they're all moaning in the club room. We probably aren't home. Let me do a couple of announcements before we get started with our photojournalism. So next week, we have Herb Asherman coming. You might remember him as one of our judges. An amazing photographer. I've got a whole page here I'm not going to read. Just know it's going to be on black and white. And I like the way he puts it. He's going to talk about the essence of a black and white photographic essay. So almost ties in with tonight with being photojournalism. So next week, Herb Asherman will be doing our presentation on black and white photography. March 3rd, our creative competition is going to be a projection. Your deadline is Wednesday, February 22nd. And then March 10th, we've got our B competition, also a projection. And their deadline for that is March 1st. Our next photojournalism night, which is going to be the last, I believe, of the year, is going to be March 17th. Our SIG meeting, Special Interest Group, is going to be Thursday. They're always on Thursday, March 2nd. Dave Bush always does them, and this time it's going to be everything about filters. I have heard him do one of the talks on filters. I'm sure he has updated it, and it's pretty interesting because he will probably dispel one or more of your myths about filters. And then March 20th, our Lightroom class is starting, so enrollment is open now. If you don't use Lightroom, I won't belabor the point, but I got to tell you, Lightroom is just the place to be. Easier to learn than Photoshop, and there's just so much you can do with it. Runs on Monday nights for 6 Mondays. And that's all I've got for announcements. Everything else you can find, our YouTube channel's got all our public meetings, or of course our website. So I'm going to turn our journalism over to Bill Keaton, who's back. Oh, Mariah's going to go first?
Well, it's just, Mariah's the head of the photojournalism, but we're going to alternate tonight reading the results unless people are here to comment on their own photographs. So with that, I think we'll get the photos up and we'll get started. First is Barb Cerrito. I don't think Barb is here tonight. Her first image is titled, Here They Come. Pro Football Hall of Fame Enshrinement Festival Balloon Classic. Competition balloons coming into the target right over the crowd. You see a dad putting his little boy on his shoulders, several people yelling and waving, and a couple taking a selfie. Barb's other photo is titled, Nailed It. Pro Football Hall of Fame Enshrinement Festival Balloon Classic. There is no steering in a hot air balloon. The pilots go by wind direction, wind speed, and their skill flying the balloon. It is thrilling to watch, especially when they are this close. Most of the time they throw the baggie from way up.
These next photos are done by Beth Babbitts. This first one, she's called Stare at a Steer. Film crew guy at West Side Market. The next one is Longing. A film crew member checking out the goodies at the West Side Market. And if you haven't been there, you should go. It's wonderful. Next one, Excuse Me. A film crew was at the West Side Market to film a scene from the movie Lost and Found in Cleveland. The woman on the left worked at the market and was trying to get past the guy on the crew. They were both very polite.
These photos are done by yours truly. The first I call the Sword Swallower, obviously. Oh. He's a member of the PB&J Circus, and he looks at the crowd after swallowing what appeared to be about a 20 to 24-inch sword during a presentation at the Ohio Renaissance Festival, which takes place in southern Ohio. The festival runs from about Labor Day weekend until the end of October. I titled this one Zulu Boy. I took this many years ago in South Africa. It is a young student looking through a broken window at a Zulu school in South Africa. There were 30 to 50 children in each class, and a lean-to with a large cast iron kettle served as the kitchen for the school of about 600 students. With this, we're back to the Renaissance Festival. It's called Knight's Charge. 2 knights in full armor joust during a presentation at the Ohio Renaissance Festival held in the fall in Warren County, Ohio. Knights score points by hitting specific areas of their opponent's armor. It's that square-looking shield on the knight on the left. That's where you hit to score. They also score by breaking lances, and they score ultimate points if they actually knock their opponent off the horse. I've seen that almost happen once in the 3 or 4 jousts I've attended. And I made a triptych of this and titled it The Wheel of Death. Ichabod Wainwright performs on the spinning Wheel of Death during a performance at the Ohio Ren Fair Festival in October this last year. The festival is held weekends during the fall in southern Ohio and features multiple stages of entertainers such as fire eaters, sword swallowers, comedians, and musicians. And I just throw a little bit in here. Anybody who likes to take weird people or take pictures of weird people, it is a photo-rich environment. Yes, that was spinning as he was performing on it. His walking up the sides was actually what made it spin faster. Bob.
Thank you very much. I had the opportunity to go out west in September, and if you remember, there were terrific fires in not only Oregon, Washington State, throughout Canada. And this is in the mountain region of Glacier National Park, and that's sunset. And unfortunately, we had many days like this, which took Grand Landscape completely out of the picture in regards to the photography. But what would happen is the winds were always coming and just building up that haze, that smoky haze in the mountains. The next photo that's sunrise. And it's amazing, that's the same haze, except the angle of the sun is different, and it's spread out. So you had, in my opinion, the beauty of smoke in the sky in regards to a sunrise, which I think is just unbelievable in regards to the coloration, and also the tragedy of the smoke building up in the mountains. That's it? That was just, somebody put an exotic piece of sculpture there. Yeah, I think it was supposed to replicate a steer or something. Yeah. Maybe you should camera. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, but that's just about exactly how it looked. It was unbelievable. Thank you.
Is Bryant here tonight? All right, I'll let Maria read about his.
Bryant Muhammad. The first one is 44. Picture of President Barack Obama shortly after being elected president. He came to Cleveland to give a speech at Lake Burke Airport on a hot summer evening. This one, no justice, no peace. Reverend Al Sharpton came to Cleveland to speak in regard to unfair hiring practices at Sherwin-Williams.
Is Diane here? I don't think so. Diane Glatzer. Her first picture is titled Head Over Heels for Boston. During a trip to Boston, we were entertained by the dozens of street performers found near and around the Quincy Market and Faneuil Hall. I hope I pronounced that right. This gentleman performed various acrobatic feats while demonstrating his amazing agility. Many gathered to watch these free shows. This photo is entitled "On the Island of Santorini, Greece." While visiting Santorini for a couple weeks and staying in the village of Oia, pronounced Ia, excuse me, located on the west side and cliffside on the island, we participated in this ritual that goes day after day and year after year. Ia is world famous and legendary for spectacular sunsets, but braving the overcrowded streets may not be for everyone. People stand or sit anywhere they can claim for their own, as shown here. The cascade of whitewashed buildings, dotted with windmills and blue dome churches, transformed into pinks and yellows and oranges, form a stunning backdrop for photographers. At the time I took this photo, everything, including the people themselves, were awash in glowing orange, and for that reason, I left the image just as it looked on that spectacular evening.
Eric Wethington. I don't believe Eric is here. Stretching. Akron Rubber Ducks program warm up stretches so players don't get cramps during the game.
I don't see Fran with us tonight. These images are by Fran Marino. The first titled "Stone Garden Entrance." Stone Garden Farms in Richfield, Ohio. The West Richfield garage is no longer pumping gasoline or fixing your car. However, as you drive this lovely country road, you feel as if you have just gone back in time. Be sure to drive slowly and take your time, as you may be greeted by the owner and his dogs, cats, and a few chickens as well. This is titled "Flower Girls." Big Sissy escorts her baby sister as they walk up the gravelly road for their Uncle Brandon and future Aunt Elizabeth's wedding in July 2021. Little sister did well as she couldn't wait to toss the flower petals. This is called "Blue Angels Fly Over First Energy Stadium." Luckily for me, I chose day one to attend the air show in Cleveland. What a show, the only day that all the planes flew due to the horrible weather for the remainder of the show. The Blue Angels did not disappoint as they flew over First Energy Stadium in front of these gorgeous skies. This is titled "Free Falling." The Blue Angels performed many stunts during the Cleveland Air Show. It was amazing to see these military men and women jump out of a plane so high in the sky and just free falling, almost like they are skiing to safety. And her last image is called "Landed Safely." Cleveland Air Show, September 2022. The Blue Angels just performed an amazing air show. They flew over Cleveland Burke Lake Airfront like it was their playground. It made me feel good to see them all land safely. It was a great show. And I believe we have Gary here to talk about his own images.
Thank you. Hello. This is a series of photos that I took in New Orleans during Super Sunday of the Black Hatch tribe. There are about 40 tribes, 40 plus tribes in New Orleans. These tribes pay tribute to the Native Americans and help shield runaway slaves. Their tradition dates back to the 1800s due to early laws preventing them from marching in a Mardi Gras parade. They hold their own parades on Fat Tuesday, St. Joseph Day, and Super Sunday, which is where I took these pictures. when the tribes throughout New Orleans gather in the parade. This is Antoine Turner. He is the maker of the suit. And he was what they call the first flag. This is the first flag suit. These suits are handmade by the owner, worn only 1 year and cost over $5,000. Some of these suits have over 1 million beads on them. And this is a 2-year suit because in 2021, they weren't allowed to march because of COVID. Next, please. So this is Antoine actually dressed up in his suit and getting ready for the parade. And he's what they call the first flag. Next, please. This is the spy boy, and he goes out in front and invites other tribes to join them. And in the bad old days when they used to be really gangs, he was looking for trouble and warning the first flag of tribes that were looking to have issues. And if you look back in the picture, that's Antoine, the first flag, and his granddaughter is holding the flag. Next one. Okay, this is Big Chief and Big Queen. Big Chief's in the middle, Big Queen's on the right, and then the Wild Man is on the left, our left. And Big Chief is Dowie Robert, his wife Tremika Robert, and Wild Man Chuck Walowinski. The Big Chief is in the center, decides where to go and which tribes to meet and ignore. Traditionally, the Big Queen on the right is an adornment meant to make the Big Chief look good. Today, she is a protectress keeping the peace and protection of the tribe. The Wild Boy on the left carries today a symbolic weapon. If you were into colors and tradition, the first Sunday after St. Joseph's Day is the Super Parade. And believe me, it's just unbelievable the way these suits look.
Did they give you any indication of how long it takes to make one of those suits?
What they do is they start right now. So the day after the parade, it takes between 11 and 12 months. The headdress on the Queen, the feathers actually cost $1,500 just for the feathers.
And they only use them 1 year?
Yeah, they redo costumes. And the thing is because there's so many of them, the interesting fact is they go offshore to get their feathers because the people in the United States have raised their prices. And now, because of the cost, there's a lot of tribes that have GoFundMes and fundraisers to raise the money. I really don't know. I think, yeah, they are huge, and they're obviously dyed. So, and those outfits that on the when we were walking around the tribe, the one guy gave my wife the vest to pick up, and I mean it was heavy. It probably weighed 80, 90 pounds.
Wow. Okay, thanks.
Jackie Sajewski's photographs. Okay, the first one is Chicago Chinatown Shopper. I was in Chicago a night before I was taking a workshop and decided to head out onto the streets of Chinatown by myself. I came across this intersection and waited until I would see someone walking through. I love the story with this older lady walking with her umbrella and shopping bag. I used a long lens and shot from across the street so people wouldn't know I was trying to take photos. Cropped and turned to black and white in Nik software. And the next one, June 24, Chicago Rally. Just finished a workshop and was heading back to the hotel. Heard on the train about a rally that was going to start, so got off a few stops early. Thousands rallied downtown to rebuke the Supreme Court decision to overturn Roe versus Wade and drastically scale back reproductive rights throughout the country. I liked this candid because of the emotion the guy with the megaphone showed. No cropping, just turn to black and white using Nick Silver effects. Texting. My flight out of Chicago was just canceled. Seconds after I got the notification on my phone, I looked up and saw this nun on her phone. I had wondered if she got the same unfortunate message. No crop, only converted to black and white with Nick Silver effects. Stranded overnight. Stranded overnight due to supposedly bad weather left travelers napping or trying to pass the time. Handheld and high ISO created a bit of a noisy file, but thought that added a bit to the atmosphere. Cropped and turned to black and white using Nick Silver effects.
These photos are by Marge Brady, and the first is titled Irwin Flying for the Prize. The Ohio School of Falconry in Columbus, Ohio was founded in 2014 with the goal of making the falconry experience accessible to people from all walks of life. Falconry is the ancient art and sport of pursuing game animals with a trained bird of prey and is still practiced with modern twists. The school promotes wildlife conservation through educational experiences and falconry classes. This image is called Hansen on Target. Henson, the Eurasian eagle owl, is being sent to free fly to his target where he will be rewarded with a piece of chicken. This is called Waiting for the Signal. The hawk is in a tree awaiting the signal from his handler to return to the target. This is titled Black Wolf. As part of the photographic experience the school offers, wolves from the Ohio Canid Center are brought in to promote an understanding for wild canine species and the importance of wolves in the ecosystem. The wolf that is pictured has been used for many public experiences and educational opportunities. And Marge's last image is called Making Friends. This 10-month-old wolf puppy is posing with a model. She is being trained to make public appearances to promote a better understanding of wolves. She obviously is socializing well.
These next ones are done by Mariah Kaiser, and that's me, so I'll read what I wrote here. This first one I called Wind and Sand. Knowing that photojournalism night was coming up, I got in my car and went on a search. And whenever I really want to find something interesting, I head over to Edgewater Park. It's always filled with people. The wind was blowing hard on this mid-February day, so I drove over to Edgewater Park, where I knew people would have turned out to enjoy this unseasonably warm day. It was 68 or 70. The blowing sand didn't deter this young child from digging that hole. And the sand was just blowing in our faces. It was an amazing sight. The second one is on the trail. Startled to see 4 policemen and a dog with his nose to the driveway making their way to the back of my neighbor's house, I grabbed my camera. Photojournalism right next door, imagine that. Love my bass. The musical performance I attended one Saturday afternoon included musicians who were also fine artists in other ways. Their art was hanging in the Heights Art Gallery across the street. The seat I was fortunate enough to sit in was well within camera distance from the musicians. I took many of this bass player. This was the one I chose. Crumpled. I didn't have to travel far to get this picture. Sitting at my dining room table, I suddenly realized there was a lot of activity at the end of the driveway. I don't know how this happened, but I could see the results and the people who had collected to report it. He looked like a student, judging from the things he took from his car before it was hauled away. Poor guy. Rider, I called this. I often drive along the lake, particularly at sunset or during interesting weather. I often drive onto the East 6th Street Pier, as do so many other people at sunset. I saw this rider, like the composition, the mystery of the figure, and what he might be thinking or texting.
These images are by Mike Murray.
They let me do 30 of them, so it'll be a while. Just kidding. So I went on a 11-day adventure with one of our sons. He's 27 in Oregon and California, and we were sitting there and watching people take their time to jump off a cliff. And she was there like for 10 minutes. Her name's Sarah, and finally got the courage to jump about 25 feet. And I ended up giving her all 8 shots. I'm not good at editing yet, so I couldn't do like the part where you see all 8 in one shot, but she has all of them now. So she didn't know anybody. She was hiking by herself and thought she would never be able to share the moment with anybody. So I'm real happy that she has the picture, because it would have just been a memory that she could tell people. So that's Crater Lake in Oregon. I was at Public Square in search of pictures and just grabbing whatever I could. I had a lot of reflections of buildings at the square, and then heard some commotion, and a couple birds said, "Hey, Mike, in case you didn't notice, we're gonna like take this Dorito and start attacking it, and we'll give you like a 10-minute heads up about it, and then you can steady your camera." Instead, what happened was they just made the commotion. I turned around, snapped a bunch of pictures. I had the speech header going, and grab that moment. I just like the equilibrium of it. They both have a hold on it, and it was over in a moment. I forget which bird took off with it, but one of them won. So. This is the Ravenna Balloon Fest back in September. I was really honing in on what I call Pizza Joe, the guy in the middle with the sunglasses. And I didn't do a lot of editing to these pictures because I didn't know all the rules, so I just kind of kept them the way they were for the most part, and other than some cropping. And so they were safe maybe 30 seconds later, but the main guy at the top looked like he was the one in charge, and they were really hustling to deal with the balloon taking off a little bit too early. But yeah, it seemed like they knew what they were doing. They expected this sort of thing to happen, so everybody was safe. This lady really, really intrigues me big time. This is Cannon Beach in Oregon. We spent a lot of time there. There's a huge rock from the Goonies movie called Haystack Rock, and the dog's a little bit out of focus, so of course I hate that part, but I was really, really studying this lady's face when I got the picture. So there's just a whole bunch going on in here. I was trying to figure out where she was, because she's not on that bike. Her mind is completely somewhere else. If we were able to see her eyes up close, you could tell that more. And then I was concerned about the kid. I didn't know if that was very safe to have the kid on there, or if it was even legal. I felt really bad for the dog. Clearly it was with them, but I wondered how long that dog had been going and how long it had to go. And she seemed like, I looked closer, she's got some nice car keys there, so there's obviously a better vehicle than just this bike, but it just felt very dangerous to me, having the kid there and having her not really being present, and wasn't even sure what that drink was. Hopefully it wasn't a beer instead of maybe just some fancy drink. So I just like that photo a lot. And this is the last one. This is Christopher. And I came across him up in Cuyahoga Heights at the Ohio Erie Cleveland Metro Parks Reservation. And he saw me coming right away, so I did the thing that we all learn about and kind of get permission. Can I shoot some pictures? And I probably took like 20 of them. I have a real close-up of his beard and stuff I'd shared earlier this season. But that's all he has. You know, I ended up talking for 30 minutes. He left this scene a few minutes after the shot and was kind of in search of another place to fish along the Cuyahoga River. This is just part of a canal there, and he's had a really, really hard life, and this is all he has. That shirt was owned by his dad. It's a Nickelodeon Kids TV shirt, so it says Nickelodeon on the front, and he told me that those are all his possessions, and I ended up giving him the pictures through a sister who kind of takes care of him, and he gives him one of his partial homes. And so he received this one and a couple other ones. So I don't like the green thing in the bottom, but I didn't know what the rules were, so I went ahead and left it in. I didn't want to like just zap it out of there. So I left the branch, the leaf thing in there. But I like this photo a lot.
I think, photojournalism is not about editing. It's about
But you would be allowed to crop, for example, right? So if that leaf on the bottom really bothered you, you could crop it up a little. You can't go in and just wipe it out, but you could. I understand, that makes sense.
But it isn't what drew my attention. I mean, you can't take your eyes away from the guy sitting there with his bike and the fishing pole. So so troublesome.
The last images for the evening are from Susan Mahorsic, and if I mispronounce that, I apologize. I don't think she's here. The first is titled One Night in Wynwood, Smoke Shop. All these pictures were taken on the same Friday night between 9 and 11 p.m. before it really got busy in the Wynwood neighborhood of Miami, Florida. Wynwood has become the new hip and trendy spot for the youth and tourists, as popular as South Beach, but more chill, a little edgier. The police are there to keep a peaceful, and mostly it is. If you do walk about, be prepared for a lot of smoke in the air. This is not the only smoke shop, and the mobile distributors cruise the street. And plenty of free samples if you prefer edibles. This one is called Street Vendors. Another picture is taken on one Friday night in the Wynwood neighborhood of Miami. As popular as South Beach, but again, a little edgier. The area is known for its graffiti and its myriad of shopping options, street vendors, and quirky stores. This is called Window Longing. Again, taken in Wynwood neighborhood of Miami. There's plenty of window shopping, although the stores are open until midnight or later. This young woman never did go in, at least not while I was there, even though the store was open. Titled True Love. Another picture taken in the Wynwood neighborhood, called True Love, in honor of our office manager, who took one look at this picture and focused on the important part, the churros and ice cream. And the last photo and the last of the evening is called Panther Cafe, again taken on the same Friday night. Panther Cafe is a popular coffee shop. During the day, it is busy and crowded. At night, serene. A tiny oasis of quiet in the otherwise nonstop nightlife. And that is all for our photojournalism presentation. Mariah, do you have anything you want to say?
No, it's just wonderful that so many people
You need your microphone.
submitted.
Yeah. because they can't hear you at home.
It's great that so many people submitted photographs, and I guess I would encourage people to get out there and take for the next time. When is that, Mike?
It's a month from tonight.
A month from tonight. You've got a month to get some really good pictures.
Can I just add one thing, and that is, it's really nice when people who submitted photographs show up and really talk about them, because otherwise we're reading comments that, maybe a line long, and it's really nice to be able to have the people here kind of ad lib and explain what their pictures were about, and then we get a chance to ask questions as well. So, I know these go out to YouTube, and you can watch them from home, but it's really nice to have people in here talking about their photos if possible, so.
And with that, I wish all a good night and safe travels.